How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but...
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain, why was the Army JAG fired? Why did you fire him?
They all serve at the pleasure of the president, and I think...
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example
I'm just asking you why. And you probably learned at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we want better representation in each and every of those.
You can't explain why you fired any of them?
So Seth Moulton just caught Pete Hegseth in the most basic contradiction of his entire tenure as Secretary of Defense. Moulton asked him point blank whether he advised the president to attack Iran. Hegseth would not say yes, would not say no, just kept deflecting into what Iran might do with a nuclear weapon someday. Then Moulton asked whether he thought starting this war was a good idea. Again, no answer. The man who has been on television for months calling this war an astounding military success will not say in front of Congress under oath that he thinks it was a good idea. And then Moulton asked about the generals. The 8 generals and admirals Hegseth has fired. Hegseth did not know the number. Moulton told him, it is 8. And when Moulton asked Hegseth to explain why even one of them was fired, the Secretary of Defense said, they all serve at the pleasure of the president. That is not a reason. That is a legal mechanism. And Moulton called it exactly that. I will give you my full take at the end. Let's watch this.
Secretary Hegseth, I'd like to clarify a few important details for the record. When you texted the launch time for F-18s going into combat over enemy territory facing anti-aircraft missiles on an unclassified signal chat, did that launch time come from Central Command, yes or no?
I know what you're referring to, and there were no
it's a very simple question. Did it come from? It's a very simple question. Did it come from Central Command?
Well, in this committee, no way in which I communicate or what I communicate on a successful strike is something that I would share.
So you can't even identify the combatant command under which this operation occurred?
Well, everybody knows the combatant.
Okay, so everyone knows this Central Command. So when Central Command sent you this information, did they send it on a classified system or an unclassified system?
Well, as you know, having served yourself, any way that the Secretary of Defense communicates or provides information in and of itself is classified and not to be discussed.
So what was the classification marking of the launch time when it was sent to you? Because DoD regulations require information on classified systems to be marked.
What was the classification mark time?
Yeah, what was the classification marking? Because
again, classifications of any information in an ongoing operation that was successful are not things that would be disclosed in a public forum.
You can very well disclose whether or not it was classified. It's not classified to disclose whether or not it was classified. And in fact, DoD regulations state that any classified information has to be labeled with its classification. Was it classified secret or top secret?
What's not classified is that it was an incredibly successful mission against the Houthis.
Okay, so it was classified. So are you trying to say that the information was unclassified?
I'm not trying to say anything.
Okay, that's what I thought. You're not saying that. So you took classified information from Central Command that had a classification marking on it, because that's what's required by DoD regulations, and you put it on an unclassified system. So we're going to get a report in a few days from the DoD Inspector General. And if the DoD Inspector General finds what is pretty obvious, both to you smiling there in the witness seat and to all of us up here, that the information was, in fact, classified, do you plan to take any accountability for that?
As I pointed out at the time...
you said that accountability is back. Does that not apply to you?
As I said at the time, Congressman, there were no names, targets, locations, units, routes, sources, methods, no classified information.
Okay, so if it comes back that it is classified, will you take accountability or not? We've already established, you've already admitted that it was classified because everything you get from CENTCOM is classified. You just explained that to me. That's how you justified not answering the question.
Not what I said. I didn't confirm any classification or clarification.
Okay, so if it is
what
confirmed,
I know is that
will you take
everything
accountability?
I share, everything I talk about,
Mr. Secretary, does accountability apply to you or not?
Is classified whether I talk or not.
Does it apply to you or not?
Does what apply to me?
Accountability. You said accountability is back at the Secretary.
And you know what? The Houthis were held accountable for shooting at our
I'm just asking if it applies to you.
Very successfully.
I'm not asking about the Houthis.
The previous administration let our ships get shot at, and nothing was done about it. And thankfully, because of the skill and courage of our troops on the battlefield,
asking about
we actually put them in a place where they called for a ceasefire.
I reclaim my time. I'm just asking if accountability applies to you. It's a very simple question. We use leadership by example.
Of course. Unlike, I serve at the pleasure of the president like everybody else does.
So it only applies to the president, not to you.
I serve at the pleasure.
You talked about the success of the Houthi operation. About how much money did it cost? How much money did you spend on missiles shooting at the Houthis?
Well, you'd have to compare that with what it costs.
I'm just asking how much did it cost?
Divert our shipping lanes around.
I'm told
the
it's
sea.
several $100 million, maybe close to $1 billion. How many U.S.-flagged commercial ships have transited the Red Sea since your so-called successful operation?
Well, thankfully, unlike the previous administration.
The answer
we
is
had
zero.
Military vessels transit.
No, I didn't ask
just
about
this
military
week.
vessels. I
Well, which
asked
would
about
be the
commercial
precursor
vessels.
for
How many
million in
commercial vessels?
transit,
It's been several
thankfully.
weeks. How many commercial vessels, U.S. flagged, have
Well,
transited the Red
would
Sea?
you, Mr. Congressman, put civilian ships
The
through
questions
dam
are not to
before
me,
military
Mr. Secretary,
ships?
they're to you.
We have responsibly put military
The answer
ships
is zero.
through first.
I reclaim my time. How many generals and admirals have you fired?
I don't know the exact number, but
You don't know the number. It's 8. Can you explain why any of them were fired? Like, just explain why was the Army JAG fired? Why did you fire him?
they all serve at the pleasure of the president. And I think
No, I'm just asking you why.
General Kane is a great example.
I'm just asking
of a
you
leader
why.
that we
I
need
think you
at
probably
this
learned
time.
at Princeton what why means. Why did you fire him?
They serve at the pleasure of the president, and we
Why
want better
did you
representation
fire
in
him?
each and every of those.
You can't
each and
explain
every
why
one
you
those
fired any of
places.
them?
So if you just watched that and felt like you were watching someone get cornered by the gap between what they say on television and what they will say under oath, let me break down what this exchange actually revealed. Start with the Iraq comparison that Moulton opens with because it sets up everything that follows. Hegseth had called Democratic members of Congress feckless and defeatist for asking questions about the Iran war. Moulton immediately turns it around. Was Congress feckless when it did not ask tough questions before Iraq? Hegseth says it is a false comparison. Moulton says fine, so asking tough questions about this war is actually a good thing then. And then he just moves on. He made his point in 2 exchanges and did not wait for a response. That is the structure he uses for the entire 5 minutes. He does not debate. He establishes and moves. Then the ownership question. Did Hegseth advise the president to attack Iran? Hegseth says he cannot discuss private conversations with the commander-in-chief. Moulton asks if he is afraid to take ownership of the decision. Hegseth pivots to what Iran might do with a nuclear weapon. Moulton asks again, does he think it was a good idea? Hegseth says it absolutely was. Then Moulton asks why he would not say so when first asked, and the room got quiet. Then the blockade exchange, which is the most precise version of the stalemate argument anyone has made in these hearings. Moulton describes what has actually happened. Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. responded by blockading Iranian ports. He calls it blockading the blockade, like saying, tag, you are it, or like President Madison responding to the British burning Washington by burning it down himself. Hegseth calls the war an astounding military success. Moulton asks whether closing the Strait of Hormuz is part of that success. Because oil is at over $100 a barrel, gas is above $4 nationally, American families are paying the price of a strait that was open before the war started and is now closed. If that is success, what does failure look like? Then the cost question that Hegseth has no answer for. Moulton asks how much this war has cost the average American taxpayer. Hegseth talks about the previous administration. Moulton pins it down. Based on the $100 billion estimate that has been floated, that is roughly $600 per American taxpayer. He asks whether the average American has $600 lying around. Hegseth says the alternatives were worse. Moulton says that is not an answer to the question he asked. Then the generals. How many have you fired? Hegseth does not know. Moulton tells him. 8. He then asks Hegseth to explain why he fired the Army Judge Advocate General, the top military lawyer, specifically. Hegseth says they all serve at the pleasure of the president, and he wants better representation in those roles. Moulton responds with the line that ended the exchange. You cannot explain why you fired any of them, because serve at the pleasure of the president is not a reason. It is the legal mechanism. It describes how you can fire someone. It says nothing about why. And the why is the accountability question that Hegseth has never answered for a single one of those 8 firings. Not for Randy George, not for the Judge Advocate General, not for the Chief of Army Chaplains, not for the first woman to lead the U.S. Navy. None of them. 8 people. 0 explanations. And the no quarter exchange that Moulton returns to in this clip is the one that has the most serious legal stakes. He reads Hegseth's own statement. No quarter. No mercy for our enemies. He asks whether Hegseth understands that an order for no quarter, refusing to take prisoners or killing surrendering combatants, is a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. Hegseth says the Department of War fights to win and follows the law. Moulton says those 2 things are in direct contradiction. Saying we will give no quarter is not following the law of war. It is a statement that violates it, and Hegseth will not walk it back. In the Nuremberg trials, submarine commanders were executed for giving that exact order, and the Secretary of Defense who publicly declared it still will not say he was wrong. Here is my take. Moulton is one of 4 combat veterans who questioned Hegseth in these hearings. Ryan, Kelly, Vindman, Moulton. All of them came with specific documented facts. All of them got the same response. Deflection. Larger picture. The president made the decision. They all serve at the pleasure of the president. At no point did Hegseth give a substantive explanation for why 8 military leaders were removed. At no point did he account for the cost per taxpayer. At no point did he acknowledge that the strait being closed undermines the claim of astounding success. At no point did he disavow a statement that meets the legal definition of a war crime. And he still has the job, which tells you everything about what accountability means in this administration. I really appreciate you watching. Make sure to check out this one. If you want more breakdowns like this, hit like and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me what you think.